All right, Jesse on Fire. Welcome back to the channel. So we got a big video to do here in a week, a slow week for MMA. Nothing going on except all of a sudden now there's a lot going on because in the unfolding biggest scandal in the history of the UFC, we've got a big story to talk about because Jeff Molina just got suspended by the Nevada State Athletic Board. I don't see people doing videos about it because I don't think people really understand what's going on here. But this thing with James Krause is expanding, and it's expanding fast. And I told you guys in the video that I did about it before, this is a much bigger deal than people realize. And a lot of people are going to go down. And Jeff Molina seems to probably be the first domino to fall. Look, I don't know for sure. I don't have, well, we'll get into it. Okay. Cause I'm going to go through the entire timeline of this entire situation, all of the, all of the major points, all of the major kind of incidents that have happened that have brought us to where we are here, which is going to lead to people going to federal prison. That is what's going to happen. Okay. Like that's what's going to happen. Now, whether other channels want to talk about it or not, whatever. Okay. Because let me tell you, there are a lot of people that know what I'm saying is true. It seems like a lot of people with YouTube channels are trying to avoid talking about this because they don't want to, I would imagine they probably want to see where the chips are going to fall. They want to make sure that that someone goes down before they dance on their grave. But that's the thing. I'm not dancing on anyone's grave. I'm just reporting. I mean, this isn't even a report. Like I don't even know what you would call my channel. I just talk about UFC, man. I just talk about UFC. And everybody that I know knows this stuff anyway. So I'm just going to tell you what's going on. And yeah, we'll see where it shakes out. But I take no pleasure in this story. I don't. I really genuinely don't. But before I get into it, really quick, thank you guys again. On this channel, we've got an agreement that if you're going to watch my content, please subscribe to the channel. Listen, man, I grind on this channel. I work really, really hard, and I give all the content away for free. All I ask is that if people are going to watch it, just click subscribe. It helps me with the algorithm. It makes an enormous difference. It's a handshake agreement. You could just not do it, but it's kind of grimy. You know what I mean? Like, I'm trying to just trust you guys to do the right thing. Anyway, thank you guys, though. It seems like everybody's doing it. The growth has been astronomical since I started asking this way, and I appreciate it. So, and then also, I'm now on the SWAGIT app. So I've talked about this a bunch. There's a link in the description. SWAGIT is it's like TikTok, but it's like Rumble. Like I could say whatever I want. So I say some things. I talk about a very specific topic related to Balenciaga, except the bigger one, P-Gate. I talk about that on there because I can't talk about it anywhere else. So if you want to check it out, the link is in the description. We're also giving away 2 tickets to UFC 285 to some lucky winner that downloads and then comments on the videos. We're going to do that drawing probably in about 2 weeks. So click on the link. And then also, in all honesty, even if you don't download the app, all I'm getting tracked on is if people click that link. If you just click the link, that would be amazing, honestly. But anyway, I promise it's safe. Okay, so jumping into this thing. Oh, one other thing I'm going to say about this Krause situation. So we're going to get into all this, right? As a matter of fact, let me just pull this up. So we're going to use this this article as kind of our guide through the timeline. But before we even get into that, I wanted to say this, okay? So when I did the first video about James Krause, and I talked about what was actually going on here, right? Now, in fairness, okay, so I did a video. I talked about the fact that the feds had raided his house, and people got into semantics with me on feds raiding him. Matter of fact, I'm not really sure if they were saying like, oh, he didn't get raided, or if they just straight up didn't even know that the feds were investigating yet. I'm pretty sure that's what they meant because they told me I was wrong. They're like, you put out false information that the feds were, had raided his house. I'm like, no, I didn't. They're like, yeah, you did. His feds did not raid his house. So I think maybe they were saying, I actually just think that they didn't know, right? But so just to be clear, if federal agents come to your house and they knock on your door, whether there's 2 of them or there's 20 of them, and they come in and they take all of your electronic devices, that I consider to be getting raided by the feds, okay? No one said they kicked the door in. No one said they put an M16 to his face, okay? I don't know if they did. I don't know if they didn't. But bottom line, I was right? Because you didn't know that, okay? Now, the only reason that I'm even doing this is because specifically there were some people whose names I'm not going to say because that would just help them, who attacked me personally over that information. I've got a history in law enforcement, and you put out information that's not true. Hey, how'd your history in law enforcement do knowing about this shit, you fucking idiot? So I was right. You were wrong. Fuck you. Anyway, so that's that. So go back to obscurity and go ahead and see if you can get my attention another way. That was not the attention that was going to, honestly, you could have just emailed me, you know? You could have just emailed me. These fucking morons, these guys put some shit on the internet, try to threaten my actual career. And when I blew them up on it, they were like, he just wants to talk to you. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, he'll take it down. He just wants to talk to you. I was like, he wants to fucking talk to me? You think that's a good way to get a hold of me? It's not Jesse on fucking Calm, dude. You threaten me online. You think that's a good way to get my fucking attention? Fuck you. I'm not talking to this stupid asshole. Anyway, because I was wrong. Because the feds didn't raid his fucking place. What's up now, you stupid fuck? Sorry. Anyway, so going forward. So here's the UFC betting scandal, a timeline. So August 1st, Krause speaks openly about betting on UFC fights with Ariel. We all know about that. He was very forthcoming about that. And listen, dude, here's the other thing about this. I think a lot of this comes down to the fact that, like, if you're doing something and you're getting away with it for a really long time, why would you think that you get careless, man? Like, or I mean, I don't know about, I'm saying you as if it's like all of us, but like people get careless. They think because this has been working for a long time, you know, maybe it's kind of on the margins and aren't really sure if they're doing anything wrong, you know, or fuck, you know for sure you are doing something wrong. But if no one's knocking down your door, you just keep rolling, dude. And like, I mean, him talking about gambling on sports on Ariel's show was short-sighted at best, you know, short-sighted at best. Now, I'm not going to get into specifics about why. I'm not even going to get into specifics about what Krause is facing exactly anymore, because I talked a lot about that on the first video. Because, as a matter of fact, let me talk about that really quick. So when I did that first video and I talked about him getting raided by the feds, I obviously had information that other people didn't have. That's why I had fucking idiots hitting me up telling me I put out fake news. Okay. But the reason for that is because I hadn't read anything about it. I knew that Krause got suspended, and I knew that that this thing was going on with the Minner fight. And then I called a bunch of people. Like, I started talking to, like, you know, people involved in the UFC and was getting all of this information. And then so because it was common knowledge among like my friends, you know, people that I know or whatever, I just thought that everybody knew. And so like I went and did a video, and then I looked and I'm like, and I realized, like, when I read a few comments and people were like, you didn't get raided by the feds, or like, and I'm like, what the fuck? And then I started looking around and I was like, oh shit, this information is not public yet. You know? And honestly, I wouldn't have put it out. I actually wouldn't have put it out. But by the time I realized I already had 20,000 views, I'm like, okay, well, I guess the fucking cat's out of the bag, man. So that, but I also talked about some other stuff in it that I probably wouldn't have. Well, I definitely wouldn't have otherwise. But if you're really curious about what these guys are probably facing, I mean, it's in the other video, but I don't know. Anyway, I just drew attention to it again. I'm not doing a very good job. But the bottom line is, there's more going on than just like this one fight. Okay. Like this one, oh, you know, maybe Derek Minner might have been hurt and he knew about it. Like, to call that the tip of the iceberg is would be a big understatement. Okay. There's a lot more going on. This is a really big deal that encompasses a lot of people. Anyway, so he makes an announcement on Ariel's that he's betting on fights and that he's got a Discord. And I know why he did it. He was promoting the Discord, obviously. You know, I remember watching that show after the scandal had already happened and thinking to myself, like, damn, how do I get on that Discord? And then I realized, I'm like, oh yeah, the whole reason I'm looking at this is because this guy's going down. You know, like, I don't think joining his Discord is probably a good idea right this second. But like, I was sold, and I was so sold I forgot why I was even watching it, dude. So if you look at it from the perspective of like, why was he talking about it? Yeah, it was really smart. But if you consider the long-term risk, which actually didn't even end up being that long, but like the risk of talking about it, it was not even close to being worth it. You know what I mean? So then you got, wait, when was that? So that was August 1st. Okay. August 17th, 6 weeks later, UFC bans fighters from wagering on bouts, guaranteed as a direct result of that conversation being public. For sure. First, I mean, I say for sure, as in it's my opinion, it's for sure. I don't know for 100% sure, but it's common sense. 6 weeks later. Okay. November 5th. So you're talking 3 weeks after that. So you already know that the UFC and the Nevada State Athletic Board and anybody else has eyes on them already about gambling, right? Like that's clearly, you talked about this. 6 weeks later, the UFC bans fighters, coaches, or any friends, betting on fights. Okay. And then 3 weeks later, you got this Derek Minner fight where you have this insane, like it says here, this crazy line movement where, you had like a 2x shift in the line right before the fight. And it's like, and everybody's betting against Derek Minner, who is Krause's fighter. And they were betting on this dude, Nurdan Biaki, to win inside the first round. He's never won by stoppage in the UFC. How could you possibly have all this money coming in on the first round? He's never won by stoppage in the UFC. No stoppage, period. Not first round stoppage. He has no stoppages in the UFC, and everyone bets on him to win in the first round. And it's all coming in at the end. Super suspicious. It set off all the bells. And I have no idea. So let's assume that someone, put the word out. Who knows if they knew that these guys were going to bet this much money and shift the line? But, it is what it is. There was a story about the line before the fight even started. And then that happened. Everyone was like, what? Everybody knew it was a work instantly, or that he knew that he, had come in injured or whatever it is, right? So November 6th, that was what? 1 day later, it's under investigation. The U.S. Integrity and U.S.-based betting integrity firm starts an investigation because it was so obvious. Okay, the day after that, the UFC announces a thorough review into the situation. Okay, thorough review into the situation. Now, right here, is where a lot of people in the comments. Now, I don't blame the people in the comments. If you want to argue with me in the comments, that's completely fine. You can disagree with me. I don't care. I talk about this all the time. It's like, I argue. It's like, Bryce Mitchell thinks the Earth's flat. Okay, well, I know it's not. I worked for a satellite company. It's not. He could say, no, it is, brother. It's flat. I'm like, brother, it's not. He's all, yes, it is. I'm like, nope, it's not. It is. I'm like, no, it's not. All right, man, listen. You might be some round earther, but blah, blah, blah. And then as soon as we get done talking about that, I'm like, hey, you want to go shoot some guns? Or like, what do you want to do? Like, disagreeing with people is not a reason to like dislike them. Okay. Like, you could disagree with me all the time. We don't have a problem, right? Post shit about me online. Try to, post shit that's intentionally trying to invade my real life. That's a fucking different ballgame, dude. So, anywho, I had lots of people who were commenting like, dude, Dana already said it's no big deal, that he's going to get, he was really dismissive. He's going to get reinstated. It's a nothing burger, right? And I said, okay, you obviously are not up to speed because there have been things that happened since then. And of course, Dana is going to say that at first. This reflects poorly on the UFC. Obviously, you have a worked fight in the UFC. Like, unless it turns out to be a huge thing, of course Dana is going to downplay it, right? So Dana did make those comments, right? But then, okay, so that was November 11th. Okay, November 19th, Krause is not allowed to corner Johns at UFC Apex while he's under investigation. Okay, and again, people are still saying like, it's going to blow over. He's just, there's nothing to it, blah, blah, blah. The New Jersey. Now, here's the reason why I knew out of the gate that this was going to go bad. Okay. I knew, dude, look at look at how on earth would the line move like that? Like, you're telling me that was a straight fight? You're telling me that's a straight fight. Who on earth would bet on that guy to win in the first round when he has no stoppages in the UFC? Who on earth would do that? And then all of a sudden there's a shitload of people betting it. It's like, of course the fix was in, dude. Obviously. I think. So New Jersey Division of Gaming Enforcement notified the state's sportsbook that they are prohibited from taking bets on fights that James Krause's James Krause involved in as a coach, trainer, promoter, or fighter. Okay. That's the 19th. So that's a week after Dana said the thing about, oh, it's no big deal. Okay. Then another 2 weeks later, Ontario Gaming Commission stops all betting on UFC. Ontario, the province in Canada, is like Nevada in the United States. It's a huge deal. It's a huge deal that they did this, right? Huge. And then Alberta also bans betting on the UFC. Okay. All betting on UFC gone. Okay. In recent weeks, the AGCO has learned of publicized alleged incidents, including possible betting by the UFC insiders, as well as reports of suspicious betting patterns of other jurisdictions. Therefore, the AGCO is now taking this step in the public interest. AGCO has indicated to operators that once the necessary remedial steps have been taken, they may provide information demonstrating that UFC bets meet the standards. So they're saying, like, you know, work this out. Whatever you guys have going on, work it out. And I believe this is probably the same in Alberta. But bottom line, they're like, because you understand, like these sports betting, like governing bodies, they're protecting sports books. Okay, when the fix is in, who gets cracked? You know, who gets cracked? The sports book does. You're stealing from them. I mean, you know, look, like, don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. It's not like I'm like, oh man, these poor sports books that live on eating people's lunch who are degenerate gamblers. You know, like, I'm not saying that they're like sympathetic figures, but if you know the outcome of a fight or you rig the outcome of a fight, you are stealing from them. You know, I mean, you're stealing from them. Now, again, I could be convinced that there are some people that deserve to get stolen from. I'm not saying that they are, but that is what you're doing. Okay. So they're taking a precaution, right? But here's the other thing. Do you really think that these organizations don't talk to each other? You think that, like, I mean, maybe they're just doing it off of the stuff that's in the news, but I mean, who knows? Okay. So again, this is like right around and then UFC prohibits Krause fighters from competition. So anyone anywhere near him, they can't compete. Right. So this is right around when I did the video and I was like, dude, the feds have all of his stuff. Okay. Which apparently was not public knowledge yet. Okay. So that's when I did it. Everybody's, oh, Jesse's he's putting out fake news, dude. Like, I would just make something like that up. Yeah, the feds raided his house, dude. They're all, where'd you get that clickbait? I'm like, oh, I just made it up, dude. I just figured I'd just like, I mean, don't you think? Like, don't you think the feds probably have his stuff? So anyway, December 9th, we find out that fight fixing is a huge concern and the FBI is involved. So, yeah. How'd your history in law enforcement do getting you that information? You should have just listened to the video instead of trying to argue with me about it, you know? So, yeah. So it's a huge problem. And if you guys don't remember, every time Dana has talked about this afterwards, he has said if you fuck around, you're going to federal fucking prison. How many times has he said that since then? They're going to go to federal fucking prison, he said. Over and over and over. That's why, I mean, honestly, like when people, you see, yeah, he says, do you know what the outcome of this is? Like, if I penalize them, you get cut. White says they're going to go to federal fucking prison. Federal fucking prison. If you're that fucking stupid and someone else wants to do it, knock yourself out. There's not enough money in it to ruin your life, not go to jail, go to federal prison. Okay, so here's the thing. I'm going to say this real quick. The other people who are going to be involved in this thing, like people who are going to be involved here, a lot of them are, I mean, I feel sympathetic for all of them, to be honest with you. But like some of them are going to be involved. I guarantee they literally didn't even really wrap their brain around. Now, I don't know if anyone else is involved in like fight fixing. Like I have no idea. I don't actually have any idea what anyone's involvement is at all. It's all like hearsay and conjecture. But like, I'm just saying, like on a personal level, I know that if you're like a young person and you have a relationship with someone who kind of is like, I don't know, like older than you, they're kind of like a mentor or whatever, and they're doing something and it's working for them, your normal process of assessing risk is kind of is bypassed, because you look at them, you're like, man, this is who I'm aspiring to be. And look at, he's doing it, man. And it's working. Like, he doesn't seem scared. Like that becomes your way of assessing risk, as opposed to actually assessing the risk, is like You know what I mean? It's the same thing as like, you know, when a lot of these companies that you hear about, like they get like all these venture capital funds that are competing with each other, trying to invest. And you look and you're like, I don't even understand what's up. Like, why is this company so hot? A lot of times the reason it's hot is because, you know, this one tried to invest. And then so all of them are like, oh, we got to get in there too. And they're not even evaluating it the way that they normally would. It's like, oh, it's kind of like the same thing. Anyway, that's actually a weird example, but nonetheless. Okay. So December 14th, Nevada extends Krause and Minner suspensions indefinitely. Okay. That's a week and a half ago. It's indefinite now. Now what do you think, guys? You think they did it because they're going to come out of this thing clean? You know, think they extended them because they're going to come out of this clean? Yeah, probably not, dude. And then, like I said, a lot of other people are going to be involved in this thing. A lot. And if I'm hearing things that are accurate, a lot of people are talking. And so now there is the other side. The UFC is going to do whatever they can, I would assume, to minimize the PR fallout from this. Because as much as Dana's like, they're going to federal fucking prison, and he's right, I don't believe for 1 second that the UFC has any involvement in dirty fights at all. I've said that before. I'll say it again. I will say it till the cows come home. I do not think, like, people act like the UFC is like setting up like judges to make like favorable outcomes for fighters that are promotable. I don't believe that at all. Like, I literally do not think there is even one shred of evidence of that. I don't think there's one like indicator that that's happening. You know, if people go, oh, well, think about this decision. I think that comes down to something very simple. I think the more promotable fighter gets a bigger reaction from the crowd. And so that just influences the judges sometimes. I do not believe at all that there is any coordination between the organization, judges at all. I just don't believe it. But at the same time, if there is a big group of people involved in the UFC in any capacity who are going to go down on this thing, I mean, it's certainly in the UFC's best interest to try to make it look like there's like one person, like try to help them make it like push it all on one person so that so it doesn't look like because otherwise, if like, let's say 10 people go down, that makes the UFC look corrupt. Even though these guys are independent contractors, it makes the organization look corrupt. And so if I'm the UFC, if I'm Dana, Hunter, and all these guys, what I'm doing personally is I'm circling the wagons, and I'm going to try to get all the lower players that might be anywhere near this thing to roll on Krause. And I feel sorry for Krause. Like I really do. I think he played it fast and loose. I don't feel good about what's going to happen to him at all. But I'm just talking about pure strategy. If this was me, I would be going to the guys, like, as the investigation sprawled, which is exactly what it's doing. You got the federal investigation, and then you also have the Nevada State Athletic Board, which is the lesser of the two. The feds is what I'm talking about. Actually, I guess they're both equally bad. But I would be circling the wagons and figuring out how I could help the lower guys. I'd be convincing them, like, you need to roll, dude. You need to talk. You're facing federal time. I mean, the feds will probably do a good job of that also. But then I would be trying to figure out PR around them to make it look like this was as small a thing as possible. If it was just James Krause that was doing this, it's just James Krause that's doing, whatever this is going to end up being, right? But yeah, Krause is going to, again, I don't feel good about it at all. But Jeff Molina got suspended. And like I said there were other people that are going to go down. Jeff Molina is very close with Krause, and he has officially been suspended. Now, everyone's like, his suspension is listed as, the suspension is unlisted as for the reason. Why would that be, you guys? Think. Okay. Why would they not note the reason for his suspension publicly? Think about that for a second. Okay. Because here's what I would hypothesize is they're not listing it because there is a big investigation going on and they don't want to tip their hand to other people that are targets now. Right. Oh, he's just suspended. They're all, why? It's like, oh, it's unlisted. We just haven't announced it. It's like, all right. But this is sprawling into this huge federal investigation. It's the Nevada State Athletic Board that suspended him. And here's one thing I don't know. I don't know if the Nevada State Athletic Board, their investigation is working in tandem with the feds. I would assume the feds are trying to pump them for information. And I mean, that would just be, you know, I know how state and federal, you know, groups don't always work well together, but like in this case, it would be really stupid if they weren't working together, because don't you want to be sharing evidence? But yeah. So anyway, Molina's going down. He's 25 years old, dude. Like this is, I mean, Derek Minner, indefinitely suspended. Let's say they reinstated him. What organization is going to touch Derek Minner? His career's over, you know? And Jeff Molina, you know, he's Krause's right hand. That's what everybody said. They're like, he's super close. And like, remember when this Megan Anderson thing happened where she was talking about, you know, whatever. I won't bring that up again. But like, she went after Krause. Oh, I wasn't getting trained or blah, blah, blah. Jeff Molina was the first one, and he lit her up on Twitter, dude. Jeff Molina lit her up on Twitter. So he's Krause's guy. Like, they're boys. Now, there's no reason to get suspended because you're friends with a guy, you know? There's reason to get suspended if you're involved in something. You know what I mean? And he apparently said something about, I don't know, being a degenerate MMA gambler or something. So anyway, it's neither here nor there. I mean, look, dude, this is again, I take no pleasure in this. I do take a little bit of pleasure in the fact that now it's public that I was right, but only because people came after me, you know? I take no pleasure in it as it relates to Molina or Krause or any of them. But anyway, I don't know, man. It sucks, dude. I hope these guys come out of it. But like I said, dude, Molina's 25, man. His whole career ahead of him. You get the stink of a fucking sports betting scandal. Even if he comes out like not, you know, even if he comes out and it was just fill in the blank involvement and it's not as serious as it very well might be. It's a sports betting. It's a sports betting beef, dude. As an athlete, it's not good, dude. It's not good at all. Anyway, like I said, I take no pleasure in any of it, but that's what I got. And please subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet and you're going to watch more of my videos. I appreciate it. Peace.